back to Nonsense Farm. I'm Kathy, and this is my 13-acre homestead where I garden, have bees, I've had cows, I do chickens, pretty much all of the nonsense that I like to get into. So today I am going to bring you on the very first 2025 garden tour for Nonsense Farm. As I take you around to each part of the garden, I'm going to show you what's going on currently, and I'm also going to tell you what my future plans are. I have 24 raised beds out here at the farm. I have another 5 at home, and we'll get to that later. But this is where we grow most of the annual sorts of things. Like this bed has a beautiful stand of broccoli in it. Have you ever grown broccoli before? You can see it's quite a large garden. This bed has a few green beans coming up. I think I'm going to need to plant them. They were kind of, plant them again. They were kind of older seeds, and so some of them didn't germinate, so I'll plant some more there. I don't have anything planted here yet. Here's a whole bed of garlic. That'll be ready pretty soon. Here we've got some tomato plants. So if you look right here, you can see we had a little bit of a late frost, and it's very weird to me how it affected some things and not others. Again, more tomatoes. This is yarrow, which is a medicinal plant. And good night, I just started with a few yarrow plants a couple of years ago, and this thing's taken over the world. And then here is calendula that seeded itself, and it's going to be beautiful. And then the next row, I don't believe there's anything planted here. Here we've got more tomatoes. And more tomatoes. And more tomatoes with some garlic. We're back to that green bean bed. Broccoli bed. Tomatoes. Now here's some sage. And then you can see there's a few heads of lettuce that we've got here. And then over there I'm growing plantains. Now that's not the things that are kind of like bananas. It's an herbal plant. It's a medicinal plant. Now this middle of the garden, let me tell you what I'm going to do with that. I on purpose left this middle area with no bed in it because I had in my mind that I wanted to have some kind of a table or something. And so I think what I'm going to do, hopefully next week, I'm going to get one of those picnic tables from Lowe's, you know, the ones that are kind of made with 2x4s. I'm going to have it delivered out here, and I'm going to paint it purple. So there'll be a purple picnic table right in the middle of my garden. Won't that be fun? Here I've got another medicinal plant, mullein, I think it's pronounced. Not much else in that bed. I planted a few cantaloupe seeds in this bed, and they're coming up nicely. It'll grow up that trellis. Here I planted some squash. I don't know if you can see, but it got affected by the frost. So I think I'm going to start some squash at home under the lights and give them a head start. Here is another bed full of medicinals. This is all echinacea that reseeded from last year. And then on the other side of this bed, we've got comfrey, which is a plant that just has so many benefits. Nothing in this bed yet. Nothing to speak of in this bed yet. Here we've got a couple of tomato plants. This is chamomile, and then we have some basil over there. And then the last row of the in-ground garden are Vigo beds, and they don't have soil in them yet. So that's another thing I'll do next week on Farm Week, is get some soil out here and fill those up. Now we're going to take a look at the in-ground garden. I think this is about 1/3 of an acre, I think. And it started out when a friend wanted to try to grow wheat out here. So that experiment went fine. Anyway, it's plowed under now, and I originally thought I wanted to grow some things in ground just to have more capacity to grow things. Well, it turns out that 24 raised beds is plenty of capacity to grow annuals and whatnot, and growing in the ground is very physical, and also the ground out here is so clay, and it's going to take years to amend it to the point where it's great soil. So what I have decided to do, I am going to have this be all annuals, like berries and things like that. So let me show you. On this first row, we have these blackberry plants that I planted last year. They're doing great, and I am very hopeful that we'll actually get some berries this year. Then as we continue down this row, you'll see that we have some very small blackberries. And those are plants that I rooted during the winter. So those will look like the other ones do next year. So we've got blackberries. And we're going to have a lot more blackberries, but blackberry plants are expensive, and I will just root them little by little. Now here, these are elderberry plants. I planted them last year, and they're looking great. This is a blueberry plant that I planted today. So we'll see how that does. Here is lemon balm that came back from last year. And here is rosemary that came back from last year. Something I should have mentioned when we were over at the raised bed garden for you to notice is all the beds except for that new row have irrigation now. So it's irrigated, it's on a timer. So I just expect it to go so much better this year. Likewise, here in the in-ground garden, we have this row right here has irrigation also. So all these berry plants, the lemon balm, the rosemary, it's all irrigated. So I'm very hopeful for success. Now, here is what we're doing in the in-ground garden. So I've got 3 rows that are made into rows, okay? This one, I just finished putting landscape cloth all on it, mostly just to keep the weeds down, because we're at the time of year where weeds are about to take over our lives. So I put landscape cloth just to keep it down. When I have enough blackberry plants to fill in that row, or whatever kind of annual plant, perennial plant rather, that I want to grow there, I will pull back one side of the landscape cloth. I will put compost all over there, because again, the soil is so clay, it's going to need a good layer of compost. Then I will put the irrigation down. Then I will put the landscape cloth back, and I will cut an X wherever I want to plant that plant. So it will have irrigation under the landscape cloth, and it will be protected from being surrounded by weeds. So this is what I've evolved into, and that's what we're doing. That 3rd row, there's still things growing in that. Next week on Farm Week, I am going to weed whack down all that, and I'm going to cover it all up with landscape cloth. So that'll be sitting there waiting for plants also. Now, let me show you the wild part of the garden over here. This is ugly, isn't it? So I've had silage tarped over this for a good long time. The problem with silage tarp, which I'm a big fan of silage tarp, but the problem is whenever we get these high winds, it's just hard to keep them down. And so as you can tell, they've just kind of bunched up. So next week during Farm Week, I haven't decided if I'm going to lay out the silage tarps again so that I can get all the weeds that are started in here? I probably will. I'll probably stretch out the silage tarps again, weigh them down, let them kill the weeds that are coming up, because now that it's been exposed to light for a while. Mother Nature is modest. If you don't cover her, she will cover herself. Then the next step will be that I will fold up these silage tarps, put them away, and I am going to seed buckwheat, which is a cover crop that helps the soil, and also it's good forage for bees. So I'm gonna kill all these weeds. I'm gonna put away the silage tarps, and I'm gonna plant buckwheat. I'm gonna seed buckwheat. Hopefully it'll go. I've mentioned Farm Week a couple of times. What do I mean by Farm Week? Next week, I am taking the entire week off from my regular job, and I am working at the farm every day. Well, I say every day, not Friday, because we're going to a wedding, but most every day. So I have lots of things I want to get done, and I'm very excited about the thought of just being able to work at the farm. And here we are at the home garden. I've got 5 raised bed gardens here, and let me show you around. Here are blackberry bushes, which is great. That isn't counted as one of the raised beds. That's a separate area. This has nothing in it. This is a swarm trap for bees. I usually catch at least one hive of bees, one colony of bees every year. This also has nothing in it. This has beets and carrots. I know they're very small, so you can't see them. But for instance, here is a carrot, and those green things right there are beets. So they are growing up. Here are some tomatoes and some lettuce, basil and Swiss chard. And then right here are onions. And then also back here in the home garden, we're breeding chicks. So here in about 5 months, they'll be laying eggs.